Morning, everyone. It's John AI, space-time creator. Connection high centers, high interference, attractive communication system attraction. I went from 16 to 21. See, it's amazing what we're coming into. We're coming to more levels of interaction. Now, the transponders and high calculation your units, positions of pi, your tracker systems are coming into more calculations online setting, which means the position of track lines and your cells and modifiers and attractors correlation system attraction is coming into higher lines of translucent. Translucent line communication system really understand how to use the transmitters into your system to its locations. Okay, so it's about you understanding you. If you're interacting with a situation, okay, I can understand why you come into high lines, a high position of being triggered. That's totally normal. Totally normal. Okay. But in that set location line direction system, you have to really understand more levels of you. Okay. This is a higher indication of what's coming into your fractals, especially with the team lines, because they're leaving these central calculations of space in 7 layers of set locations. Okay. Setting position of track line, there's 12 foundation graph calculations settings when it comes into your system through body frame. But your body frame is now in another shifting line communication dimension. Now, this is a parallel universe line interference into your particle accelerators. The accelerators are now in a shift line, in a timeline, time loop, time lock, time screen, time calculation, indirect signal. Modification to its centers, to its operation surface, is high triangulation, its clocking line position, its operation locations. The team is now in an 8-line calculation setting, 8 million set location lines of files. Now that's per second and 400,000 line screens in direct signal. How to use the panels, operation surface and traction. So it's really understand to use the seconds, minutes, and hours because you're in ground line setting high in position to the all system because you're also in communications of 144 graphing screens. Okay, 144 months of space now. Now the track lines, the spacing line is in the 13 graph line. Once they get more recognition of time sequence through their chakra system, the modification to understand each chakra is not just a representation of them, it's their memory of set locations to their system. Right? So loads of information coming back to you, right? So you don't want to get dormant with any of your system locations, right? So in the transponders, in its units and set location of system, your cells are coming into high calculation setting, fast track, high calculation, high position, all levels. Now each cell and modification line screen is going to basically go into Mach 1. Now Mach 1 line center, high travel communication setting. 13 month, 13 graph, 13 screens. Direct and calculate high interference of 12 foundation line chemistry or DNA track locations in your 24 cycle provision. Now, in the calculation high position of travel lines into the team line center is into 8 million files. That's per line, per second, per square. The triangulation reset position location to all settings is all about understanding how to use it through triangulation interface. Okay, computer interface position operation systems locations. So it's really understand how to use it through modification, right? Really understand how to use it through navigation. Really understand how to use your thought patterns. All right. Now, in position locations, when we were on live in calculation lines, there was a lot of interference because you weren't connected to your phones. You are connected to each other, but you understand you're connected to your phones as your phone is connected to you. So when I say you're connected to everything, everything's connected to you. So in that set location, you have to find a way to get into that integration. Try to understand how to volume yourself. Okay, its simplicity at its best is try to understand you and all lines of interfacing. You're interfacing with everything in set location to space and time. You try to understand how to use it, how to program your system, really understand how to use your thoughts. Okay, how to really connect on what you're saying, right? Balancing these things out, you have your inner space and you have your outer space. You have your inner links, you have your outer links. You got your inner rounds, you got your outer rounds. It's the inner line communication you create first. And then space comes to you. The outer space comes to you. But see, there's an inner ego and there's an outer ego. Okay, so you really understand how to balance out the two to bring in yin and yang. That's a process that everybody has to come into, understanding the track communication of light, shade, and shadows of the light side of the moon and the dark side of the moon. Okay, so when you're coming to me and you're seeing me as an issue, it's not me, it's you. So this is the track locations you're not understanding through its travel because you're traveling faster in the mind through files. So it's kind of like getting data codes and line interference, and they're coming so fast in high side locations, I don't know which way they are going in positional travel. You've got to get direct signals and system and location line connections to your cerebros. Your cerebral and your cortex and your placebo cortex line calculation setting is coming to higher lines, high calculations to a system, mystical cortex of streams, directing calculations to your vision line communication system and all traction to its location. Okay? So it's really understanding you in all levels, especially when you reach those higher calculations, especially with the team. Okay? Because they are no longer in the interlink line connections of 7, they're in 8. Okay? So your track line coordinating high position all calculation line interference is coming into invisibility. 24 line settings, the high cycles in communication stream location, high calculation setting, right? And probing. Orbs, communication of all triangulation of resurface position of programs, to understand how to use the modification to your settings, especially when you come to higher levels of travel and making those high calculations. Knowing exactly how to use the 1300 line screens and application in your system, right? Understanding geographical system when you're in position of recharging your systems and locations. These are the things that you have to come into. So it's all modified in your system to its locations, right? So how's everybody doing today? It's great to see you. Monday morning, lots going on. We have Q&A afterwards. This is going to get you in a position line connection high system to understand yourself through provision, okay? Okay, so just really start to connect with your system more, okay? Because the frequencies are your connections of your energetic core lines, your streaming interference and position indication measures, and your scales and your balance. The correlation of time sequence and human resonance of your Earth is turning into translucent locations. Okay? Invisibility at its best. We understand how to use it, right? Because we're coming into holographic worlds now. The central communication line interference has come to modification. Right? It's knowing how to use your hardware and your software as a mechanism high position of travel communication to its navigation. Okay? All right, second location, Nikki, all loves Janelle, Kennerson Moonchild, high position of Ziggy, high line interference into all set locations into Emily. Great to see everybody. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and set position this operation. Okay, Trinity, Heather, Ponce. Great to see everybody. Lori. Okay. So just keeping you guys updated, you know, in all ways and forms is really understanding how to use your, not just your clocking system, but you have to understand yourself from point system to point system to point system to point system locations. Okay. So basically it's all about understanding to create these things, right? Create point system line conditions of clockings at 24, position of 48. Set location of 72 and set line conditions of 144, track locations, high setting. In all position locations, 144, 24. So that's all it is. You're creating 24, 48, 72 into 144, creates its platform of communication. Okay. Each point system has a dimensional door, set location. And then basically you travel through it in set location. Okay, so the sun comes in, the moon comes in to all levels to its location. All right, so it's that simple, right? But see, your geographical memory now is coming to high and fast track location system. So you come into data ops, data line interference, deep position location of AMI. So that's position location of alpha, comes calculations of delta, delta line sending its high track location system. Into theta, sets line track location H line center, AI calculation system in bracket position. Now the H line center comes in all calculation setting of 6 position of track communication settings and all levels of travel, making it high position. Okay, so the data streams comes into delta waves. The atmosphere line calculation comes in atom communications into telecommunication, and the connections all levels and high center interference comes into its awareness of bracket communications into 4 signals instead of location of 3, and 7 line calculation setting in position of 8 instead of location of travel. Okay. All right, the mechanism high position of travel lines is to understand how to use your wave and line position location in your system. So each cell in your line position has a transponder, has a point system of track lines, directing communication setting and travel position to its operation. Sparks the channels in 3 line settings and tractions. Okay. Directing signals, teleportation, string location to triangulation resets. Calculation high interference into your diamond core sets. Drive communication line centers. Sun comes in, moon comes in, line rotation center, attraction. Okay. Sets up a geographical map sequence, all levels of correlation. Now, directed communication line interference, you have to understand how this is all set up. So, in position locations. So, the connections all over the species line is an XT1000 line screen now. The calculation of high interference in position of team now is no longer an XT, they're an XT2800. XT2800. So, you know, security lines of panels and higher communication setting of Pluto, erection of time sequence. Directing communication line settings at all levels have set location. Travel records and time sequence comes into the sun and the moon, but only in the center communication. Setting direct set locations comes into position of track lines, opens all signals into an XT2800 to a set location of 3 settings and 3 set location of travels. Indirect signal modification. Travel calculation line in a point system, travel lines, a high calculation setting. Okay, all through direction, right? And if you look really close, you can see the connections of the moon split its anomalies. See the intelligence? See the eye-line screens? So inline rotation comes in position to its solar sail of calculation stream location at high settings and traction. Okay, done by equation. All right, so once you understand the connections to your waving line screen lines, this is a 24-line angle. So the angle puts position of 2-point systems of tractions, scales on position of balance. Okay, calculations into atom lines, the triangulation reset position of programs and point systems at 3 set location. Okay, 4 in generation, right? 4 over lines equal lines of correlation, right? 7 line tracks equals line calculation setting, positive over pi, positions of 8 track location. Now, indirect signal, you have to understand how to use the modification at all levels of triangulation or reset position of programs. Calculation high interference of the sun and the moon opens all signals and modification lines and your location of travels. Directing communication lines at equal line communication setting of what's below and what's above and set location of 2 arrows of indication of center communication. Directing communication line settings all line rotation center and travel communication. Okay, that's my equation. All right, so in that center communication line settings, we set a 1 graph screen, okay? Setting cross line signals in 3 set locations, right? So in position of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lines of wires. Calculations of 5, 6, 7, 8 lines of wires. 9, 10, and 11, and 12 set locations, a high setting. Travel calculation lines of 0, 1, in position of 0, 0, 1, in position location of 0, 0, 0, 1, in position location of 0, 0, 0, 0, 1 set location of travel. Sets position line calculation setting. Sets location of 24. Sets position locations into 48. Sets position locations into 72. And setting calculation line direct signals into 144, a track location system, and a 4 generation screen line ahead calculation. That my equation, right? So the scales position lines of 12 lines comes into all calculation of 7. 7 crosses lines of 4 in 3-point systems into 2 track lines into 6 position line connection setting, 6 into 8 in position area of theta and communication, right? Directing line calculation setting to 2 waving panels and track locations. Now in position you bring in the XT as a 2800 line screen in position of 4800 line screen in direct signal. Okay, so you got the XT1000 in the center line. Now the XT1000 holds the signal and modification all logs of detection high interference. So that's 2 million line graphs into 800,000 line files, 4 million line graphs into 800,000 files in track location. Direct and communication line settings really understand how to use all provision lines of 144, tracking calculations of 12 over 10 in position 9 and 11 and 12 setting into 1 sequence calculation lines of 0 of operation surface and set location. Okay, direct and communication crosses line screens and all calculation modification to a timestamp that boxes system's location center, changes all position of track lines and future adaptation. Triangulation to reset position of programs opens all capacity line centers at times of clocking in position of traction. Direct and communication line interference puts all balanced communications in a 4-line signal, sets line calculation setting. Now, in that track lines, we basically take the position lines of 4 into 800 in 3-set location line system. So automatically comes into 4 into 3. 7 million track lines in calculation high interference of 100,000 line screens, directing communication line settings into 24 line center, 48 line provision, 72 computer track, and 144 grounding system of our cerebral cortex of design to high lines of operation of center communication. That's my equation. Very complicated stuff, guys. Extremely complicated. So the set lines of calculation high interference. Now we come into 8 channels in position lines of 8 surface, into 8 line centers, into 8 line rotation. Triangulation high interference, equal line position locations comes above and comes below in center calculations. Bracket communication of 4 generation strings. So 0, 0, 0 in set locations into 0 equal lines of 1. Okay? Very complicated stuff. So that's 4 generation lines equals lines of 3. Sets position line in calculation high interference. So that's 7. That's over. And positions equal to line 1 position to your pyramid line calculation setting in 4 set location travel lines is center communication of operation. Okay, done my equation. Okay, so the equations are just insane. Okay, very complicated stuff. So setting these things up is really understand how to communicate to everything inside position attractions, right? So we got a 15 line setting into 7 thumbs up. Okay. So that's 1 ground setting into 5 positions. All right. Sun comes in, moon comes in, line traction. Okay. Center correlation setting 15 equals line high center interference into north, east, west, and south position of diamond core. Tracks correlation of center of communication, directing signals. Comes into modification lines across in line calculation setting in high position of its operation surface in flux capacitor. Travel calculation line interference in position to its intelligence in position line calculation setting to new position of track lines high position. Operation server location system all levels of high calculation. Okay. Directing communication of panels, directing lines of signals in position. Okay. Center calculation high interference comes into all signal line position to its operation line system to its traction. Directing communication line settings is all levels of box location centers and track locations. High calculation line in a 3-set location, directing communication to sun. Now the sun changes its directional location of signal in position, its operation center. Track calculation high interference in 3 waving line rotation centers and traction. Directing communication at 3 box location centers and traction. Center communication lines opens all signals and high position location high centers, high calculation high interference into your pyramids of activation. Okay, that's my equation. The mechanism high position of travel is all levels of phase direction of time sequence. Now, calculation, you have 13 equal lines of high calculation of point system of 0, 0, 0, 0. Sets 1, 1, 1, 1 in position of 2 track location line centers of 3 set location of travel settings. Directing communication of 1 center, 2 center, 3 center in locations. 1 graph, 2 graphs, 3 graph location centers. Directed communication system. The sun comes in position of the moon and track location line system, all levels of operation surface. Directing communication line grounds sets position to its operation line system across our location. So in position, we take the 0 communications and a 4-track line calculation. Okay, now what that does, it opens up all calculation lines into a solar sail and track location, the higher lines of division. Center communication of 13 ground settings, alpha, sets calculation of delta, line calculation of theta, and theta line position to its H line calculation to its mega, mega into zeta, zeta into radiation line ground lines and set location line system. Travel calculations of 1, 2, 3, 4, equal line communications of 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of 3. Always work on that set location of 7 and 8 line center communication setting. High position of track lines, operation line interference into 844 in track locations and higher position travel connections. That's my equation. All right? Very complicated. Because the thing is, once you understand how to use an XT1000, you can go into higher line position travel lines. So there's so many communication line screens. Now, when you come into UFO line position location track lines, you have to understand the position locations of panels of operation line calculation settings, your inventories of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels of operation. Direct and communication crosses lines calculation setting, direct signal line connection high system, and circles of communication. Direct and communication line setting opens all track to its correlation setting back to its moon set location. travels direction of times, picks it up in calculation setting, opens all signals, pi's a direction of time sequence, crosses line calculation setting to string location. Now, in direct signal, we come into this position locations, all levels, into your pyramid and 2 track lines and 3 set location line system, and all levels of operation surface and set location. Complicated stuff, right? So we come into the fly direction of time, future adaptation, surface, and triangulation. Down by equation. Okay. All right. So really understand how to use the formula through equation line screens, because the 114 really puts you in a position of traction. Okay. Now we got 13 line screens in a set position of 7. Is that coincidence? No, because you're working with the higher self, and the higher self is working with the 7 bodies of water, which is now an 8 set location. 8 centers line, communication to the sun, opens all signals and modification. Now, you have to learn how to travel 13 and 7 through locations of the sun and the moon, projector, and position of its moon setting in 3 track locations, right? Sun comes in line signal, and modification of line circles in set location. Travel mix of time sequence, line setting, and all levels. Modify high position of pi, sets position to its sail and track location setting of operation. Direct and communication line interference comes in the calculation of 13 line center line condition high system. So in that track line high interference comes in at 24 line screens, set position location of 48, 72 track lines, and 144 in setting position to its platform of communication setting and 2 track locations of operation. Okay. Now, in that position, this is where it comes into a magnetic ball and set position of travel and communication. Very complicated stuff, right? So the mechanism high position of force line in position near all calculation system is all levels of center communication. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So it's important you understand how to use your calculation screens, how to use your modification line cycles, how to use your tracker systems, and position line connections of one track location. Okay. You have any questions? We have obviously Zoom afterwards, obviously, because the formulas are off the charts. Okay. Now we're always taking 14 screen lines, equal lines of 7. See, isn't that how it stays at 7? So it's in track location of 13 and 7 track line setting. Okay. So inline rotation, it comes into 15, it comes into 16, it comes into 17, it comes into 18. 7, 7, 7. So that's position locations. All right. So that's 1, 2. We take split line, split line, split line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 line calculations, positive or negative, as line calculations is 7 attractions and 2-point systems of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 in center, equal lines of 8, 8, 8, 8 position attraction. Okay? It's complicated stuff. But you have to stand the clocking system of 24, sets position of 16 equals 24, 17 equals 24, 18 equals 24, 14 equals 24, and 13 equals 24. So locations, ground settings, high operation, all levels, 24, 48, 72, 144. Now 144 comes into 244, 244 to 344, 444, 544, 644, 744, 844. Tractor's communication center of operation surface and set location. Down my equation. So I'm just setting up sequence lines at clock lines and screen location centers and attractions. Going through timeline settings, 23 line rotation into set location line settings. So we go into 23 into 24 equals line calculations of 01 and position attractions. So that's 24 equals lines of calculation of 24 setting and traction. Okay. Direct communications, working with all 14 line screens, 14 equals lines of 7 position travel calculations, right? So in that line interference, we change the 24 line setting, and it's 24 equals line communications into 27. See, 7. See? Everything comes in 7. So it's 7 line communication high interference. That's 15 line position track lines into 7 line communication equals 7 position attraction. So it's really understanding how to really get into modification of clock lines and channel positions operation of seconds, minutes, and perception and calculation, high calculation setting, and all levels of set location. So directing calculation of 24, 23 lines of high calculation of 15 over 7 equals lines of 7. 24 equals lines of 0, 1 equals lines of 24. Sets position of 14 equals lines of 7 equals lines of 8 position of track lines. So in position line track lines comes in 8 position of space, 8 positions of time, 8 position location calculations, 8 lines of center, 8 lines of position, 8 lines of circle, line rotation interference, and travel direction of time sequence in future of the now adaptation surface and set location. That right question. Very complicated. And what are we in traction of? 15.7. Okay, see how it comes in track location? See, 13, 14, 15, 15.7. See, the next one's going to be 16.7. The next one's going to be 17.7. The next one's going to be 18.7. So I'm way ahead of schedule, right? You see how that works? You see how that works? So in clock line communication, setting and traction, you have to really just kind of modify your correlation high position travel settings. It's all direct setting to the system. So it's calculate and modify how you really get into 5 line setting location travels. You're 5 days ahead, you're 7 days ahead, you're 2 weeks ahead, you're a month ahead. Okay, so 30 line communication setting equals line 24. 24 line setting, location setting, and track location system, all set location line settings. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 set locations. 4 line settings equal lines communication of 5 equals line calculation of 6, and 7 line connections opens up 8 centers of communication. Okay. So it's really understanding how to direct and redirect panels and communication streamline connections. Okay. Very complicated stuff, guys. It's about understanding how to clock your system at 26 lines and high calculation setting equal lines, setting track lines, an eye line interference of 44 set location, right? Because that's where you are. So in 2 line center locations, we take 5 lines at high calculation of 7. At 6 line, add a plus line in 8 line rotations. What do you have? 8 equals lines of 4, 4 in set location. Okay. Direct and communication lines at 844 in track location in longitude and latitude in yin and yang. Process position track lines, high line interference, and travel position its operation surface. So start really connecting with your seconds, minutes, and hours now. Okay. Because the team now is an 844 in screen line connection system. 8 million line settings. Okay. Setting correlating high interference into 444. Okay, 44. Sets lines communication of 3 zeros. Sets position location of 3 zeros. Sets position location of 2 zeros. So we got 3 over 6 in setting line connections all levels. 3, 6, 9. And we come into line position of 12. That's a graph communication screen line and position of traction. Okay. So once you understand that, then you take that calculation of 0 lines in position of 3 set location of travel lines and high position. Setting correlation high interference cross in line screens and set position of 2 into 3 set locations. Calculation high interference into 9 line settings and track location high center interference in galaxy shift lines. Direct and communication the line crosses line stream location at 3 line centers and set location at 3, 6, 9, and 12. Direct and communication to a solar sail and direct signal to a set location of high setting. Travel calculation line and position location comes into the sun, comes into the moon, and protect its all systems its location. Done by equation. So what are we in traction now about? 16.7. See? See how that works? 13, 14, 15, 16. Next one's going to be 17, right? Next one's going to be 18. So I'm looking at the clocking even before it comes into clocking. Future adaptation surface is really understand how the graphic communicates to its setting, right? Really understand the center communication. Now we're in 16 of 8. See? 16 in position of 8. Okay? 16 equals 24. 24 over pi equals 8. Right? Now it's in 17. And then 17 is going to go back in 18, and then it's going to go into 19, and then it's going to go into 20, and then it's going to go to 24. Right? So if you understand how your clocking system works, you are in control of all mechanism line setting a screen line position of your seconds, minutes, and hours. It's all about understanding how to use the frames of communication as setting of traction to all set line conditions. I'm telling you exactly what's happening even before it's even happening because it's already done through equation. You guys have to get into that mechanism settings now. Okay, so you're out of the equation lines of XT thousands. You're in position of 2800 now. Okay, so 2 million files, 800,000 line settings. Okay, perimeter lines of 24, 8 position line connections in minutes, and 2 operation center line connections of hours in correlation. Okay. So what you really understand is that you split it in between equal line communication of 2, 8, 8, 0. So it comes in all track location of 3 lines of 8 in positions of 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and position of 12 set location of 8 settings. So in the mechanism of high calculation line interference, we take the 8 lines of center, 8 lines position, 8 lines of track, 8 lines of rotation, 8 lines of surface, 8 in correlation setting, 8 track position, all levels calculation setting and traction. Okay. Setting communication lines as center lines of 24 line cycles, high calculation stream location system comes all levels of center communication setting to all levels of operation surface and set location. That my question. Okay. So it's very complicated, guys. Once you understand the formulas equation, but you have to understand the travel communications, how it all indicates your system to allocate the line switching. Okay. So getting in that position lines, you rebracket the communication streams. Now become the alpha line rotation center and track location, one system. Okay. So that's 0 of 1 set location, right? 24 sets in line calculation to balance. Okay. Sets position flux past our stream location centers, track to its communication system, all levels of track location, and center communication, right? Directing communication as sun is the opposite line setting and traction. Comes into a kaleidoscope in location center. Tracks communication of its moon, operates the signal line position to its operation center of center communication. Okay, down by equation. Okay. So metric screens, compute systems, and correlation. Directing calculation lines, a graph line calculation setting the stream locations, box lines, and high position triangulation. So we go into triangulation and we go into box locations, crossing signals. Okay. Mechanism high calculations, high interference, come to a pyramid line stream location system and travels. Direct communication lines, your flywheel, in position of travel communication and Hall setting. So put in position line track lines. So we got 2 box line calculation of 3 sets. We got triangulation high position locations in position of 4 sets. And travel calculation all line connection high center interference in position location line centers into 1, 2, 3, 4 position the molecules. Directing calculation 1, 2, 3 set location line systems molecules sets position of center of operation. Center correlation high interference positive over line center of negative, positive over negative line communications 8 position of space, 8 positions of time, 8 position location, 8 line connection high centers, 8 position line high calculation setting, 8 position location of trackers, 8 line communication of brain freeze patterns, 8 line communication line interference, 8 communication lines high setting, 8 communication of foundation graph, 8 position location of clock lines, 8 position location of space, 8 location of time, 8 location of high centers of pi, and direct signal set locations. Done by equation. All right, so that's all done. It's set position operation surface. Okay, the triangulation reset position programs. Directing calculation. Now, I know everybody's like, oh, what's going on, right? The connections to your high screens is really to understand how to use your system to its location, right? How to use your graph and communication graph calculation settings. So 3 sets in position of 1, 2, 3, 4 set locations, right? Now we're in 17 of 8, right? Showing you exactly what's going on through set locations. We're at 17.8 now, right? Boom. And then we go into 18, right? So we have to really understand how we stay with the clock line communication. This is the balance position of correlation high calculation setting. How to use the energetic waving patterns in high position of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 molecules and set location of travel lines and set location. All right. Directing communication of panel lines crosses string. Directing high calculation high position. Center communication line screens, high calculation modification line position of center of operation. Center communication line interference in levels of triangulation reset position program line calculation setting to all levels of operation. Okay, that's my equation. Okay, so to understand how it connects to high position. All right, so this is line communication of a shell. Modification line interference in set position travel calculations. All right, cerebral cortex, placebo cortex of design, directing lines of panels. Seeing all position of tractors communication surface, right? So you guys obviously are going to have to watch this again. This is a very powerful Zoom. Setting calculation high interference and set location of live and set location line system at Q&A. Directing communication line strings and set location. So 14 line communication, the lines of calculation of 8 equals lines of 8 position location attraction. Okay, so it's really understand how to take position location of 1, 2, 3, 4 in position north, in east, in position of west, in position of south. Track calculation high interference, that's position location 14 is now calculation high interference is 15 triangulation and travel communication, right? So I'm showing you exactly how you communicate with your clock line system, how it fluctuates and goes up and down. And eventually it's going to get where it needs to go in its applications, right? Time capacitors and position of travel lines is all about understanding how to use your Stargate panels of operation surface and location of travel. Okay, directing modification lines, circles, and high position of your system in all levels of Stargates, star panels, and star maps as application. Travel direction time sequence comes into realms, portals of communication center of travel communication. Directing communication line settings comes in all set location to its travel. Now, it's in 15 line setting, right? There's a relocation of 16 and line connection of 17, line communication of 18 as center operation. 8's position, 8 track lines, 8 line rotation, 8 interference, and the diamond core line shift line screen location of center. So there's so much confusion there, right? But it's not. It's just, it looks confusing. So what you have to understand is really understand how to use the galaxy this way, how to use it this way, how to go this way, how to go that way, how to go this way, how to go that way, how to spin this way location, how to spin this calculation system, how to go this line communication, how to go this line communication, how to understand this line position, how to use this track line conditions, how to use this line communication, right? So your clocking is going back and forth now, okay, through flux capacitors. You have to understand the vortex flux. Now, the flux capacitor has a line calculation setting to Y. Y's position of its H. See the H? Sets position of center. There's the H through Y, right? Sets location in position, all settings, right? There's your timestamp. Now, timestamp sets position to your pyramid. There's your pyramid, right? Flywheel direction of time sequence location of patterns. Direction of time sequence in center of operation surface and set location. Travel calculation line interference and triangulation to reset position of programs. Directing communication line system, all levels in set location line system, into 2 track lines, 3 set lines, high center interference, 4 track interference, 5 position, 6, 7, and 8 line communication. Directing communication line settings into location grids and 3 set location of travel settings. Down by equation. Now, if you look really close, you can see the intelligence, right? Here's the eye line right there. Boom. Okay, intelligence. See how that works? So that's position line calculation of film shift line calculation setting of Tron and communication, right? All right. So getting that position of travel lines, really understand how to modify high calculation stream location in your systems. Now, the bracket communication lines opens up high calculation settings. So 24 sets position of 48. Now, the 72 waits on signal, sets track lines over pi, direct signal location system over power generator line communication of pi. Pi generation on point systems in a 24 cycle high calculating line system in seconds per line, per channel, per square, per calculation, per operation, set position operation. Now, setting position of track lines comes in position to its location to its dimensional sail. Cross line screen lines and 4 line rotations in position, all levels into moon line communication. Direct calculation of sun in line setting, all track location of cerebral. Vortex calculation line interference, 4 over lines of 72, 24 lines of circle line communication setting, and kaleidoscope communication of center of operation. That my question. All right, so we put a timestamp time loop. Now the time loop sets position of travel communications. Now this opens up the cell, sets position of all calculation line interference when it comes into all calculation of your shell. Modification lines of 6 lines of modulation, setting correlating high interference and molecules. Structural line division line interference. So in position line connections, we graph the screens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets position of track lines, right? Opposite signal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets position of track lines. 5 into 2 track location. Into line connections comes into 12 line settings, equal lines of 24. Sets location system as sun and the moon, protects the system of its location center attraction. Down by equation. All right. So if you look really close, you can see the satellite. Boom. All right, very complicated, but fun. All right, so this is what happens when you really, really start to understand how to use a 2800 screen location, okay, coming from an XT equals lines of 1,000 line connections. Okay? So it's all about understanding how to use the seconds, how to use the minutes, and how to use the hours. See, the hours has to be an operation line system, okay? When it comes into 15, 16, 17, 18, okay? So the hours equals line calculation setting. 15 equals 24, 16 is 24, 17 is 24, 18 is 24, which means you've already gone through the whole communication of pi generations to all pi's of recognition of space and time through all timelines all at once. Okay? Very complicated, but it's very powerful. So that's why it's in a 2 operation, which is 12 and 12, right? Do you understand that setting and how it all works now in set locations? How that works in set location high position in your system, seconds, minutes, and hours, how it works in all line calculation setting and attraction. So we got 40 line position, and let's say we get into set position line calculation setting and track lines into 4103. Okay, set locations, all right? So 0 operation of 3, right? Fibonacci, 3 line centers, high position of travel communication to a system of travel, okay? Now, in position of point system, right? So it's 2 operations, but it's already gone through its 24 clocking system, right? 0, 3, right? So that goes into 3, that goes into 6, that goes into 9, that goes into 12, right? 12 comes here. 12 equals lines of calculation high interference equals lines of 24 equals line communication all levels into 48, 72, and 144 in track location of center of operation. So now you understand the importance of seconds, minutes, and hours when you go through frame position line calculation setting. Understand the positive and negative to each line position in your system. So it's the incident high position to its increment, it position line connected to your alpha line screen location of center of travel. Directing communication line settings, really understand how to use the operation line connection, size, graph, activity, line rotation to the system of ripples effect in set position of travel communication to 3 lines of set location. Travel communication into delta in line setting high calculations, or anything through theta. Now theta has a more jigged line rotation interference of travel communication of center travel positions. Omega has a huge wave in line setting of travel communication. So we all understand how to use the alpha, delta, and theta now through omega line center interference high position to its operation as high calculation setting, box interference in position highways, and track location of 4 sets. So you're working with 1, 2, 3, 4 sets. 1, 2, 3, 4 sets in set locations, right? 4 line signatures and 3 set location of 7 into infinity 8 set location, right? So that equalized correlation high position of panels, triangulation and reset position locations, all levels. Flux capacitor comes in, travel calculation high in position to its operation. 2800. So you're working with XT 2800 line setting, traction, and microvision. All right. So it's really understand how to surface your line screens and really understand how to direct signal location your system. So you got 43. Equal lines that calculate high position of travel calculation, high position of its operation location system of 22. All right, so we don't know what 22 is, right? That's 2 track line connections to a planet's surface in position of Pluto and 2 track locations. All right, security perimeter line position to your pyramids and set location travel settings. So that's 2 lines of provision, 2 lines of tractions, right? Equals lines of 2 operations, sets position of 24. So every time you see the connections of the seconds, minutes, and hours, the hour is basically, it's already gone through the 24 clocking system of pi generator. Pi generator generation setting, the attractions, right? Understand all timelines all at once, right? You got to get balanced with the seconds and minutes per hour per channel because it streams its set location system into all levels. Now you have 60 seconds line screen. That's 60 million line centers. That's 60 billion set position of cycles. That's 60 billion lines of triangulation of interface. That's 60 trillion communication line settings and clock line communications on a 24 line position of operation. Okay, very complicated stuff. So now you understand the point system when it comes into all settings. You have 44 track locations, bracket communication lines, equal line communication high centers, 2-point systems, coming in communication lines of 38 line setting. Okay, so mechanism of 2 bracket communication. So that's a Fibonacci line swirl directing signal location center. So that's position 8. 8 center lines its communication system and all travel communication, right? That's how you communicate to 38, right? So in position, you have 4 generation screens, right? So in position locations, in position locations, in position locations. Okay. So we all understand how this all works in setting. Okay, especially with your tracker system through its information, because it's probing now through its transponders. Each cell is in its own modification screen line. Each point system has its direct system to its locations. All right. 4 channels of operation molecules done. Right. So that trackification of 4 equals lines of 3. Right. There it is. 4, 3. Right. There's 3. 1, 2, 3. Right. There's the triangulation. Right. So that's what it is in set location to its setting. Right. So in the fractals is already created through its travel. That's a fractal. So you get the sun and the moon in line rotation center and protects the system to its location. Okay? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Because now you're in 8 centers into 4 generation streams of 2 bracket communication lines of 2 operation line system on a 24 ground setting of operation of pi and direct signal to a full cycle communication all time lines all at once. Okay? That's where the team is at. Okay. All right. So getting that track line communication system is all about understanding how to use the 13 equals lines of 24. 24 is this clocking system in all traction, right? Sets position, all calculation modification line screens. Now in direct signal, line conditions of 24 equals lines of 144. Okay. Spacing line and position locations, team line. Okay. But your track line now is 844. In set locations. All right. So we all understand how this all works. The position lines of 13 graph lines and measure is understanding the scales of position location of yin and yang process position travel lines. The 24 line communication is to understand the yin and yang process location of seconds, minutes, and hours. So modification line calculation setting is all about understanding how to use your tracker as an all-line communication of center operation. Direct communication of 24 line cycles is all about understanding how to use the yin and yang process communication. Very complicated stuff, right? But look how powerful it is in this application. How you create it through its design. Okay? How you create it through its design. All right? So you really have to start connecting with your tracker line screens now, right? Because it's all transponders. The transistors and point system cells. Point system lines is cell. There's a point system of a cell. Set position, location, opposite line candidates. Point system of a cell. Op location, high center. Point system of a cell, right? Sets location. Here's a proton, right? Here's an electron. Oh, here's a photon. Whoa. And here's a neutron. Whoa, right? So understand the communication lines, center location of point system and traction. Direct communication of pi lines and high calculation setting and 4 track locations. So in position location lines, molecule structure lines comes in a 3 set location line system. But if you look really close, you can see the 4 communications of center attraction, right? So in position location of 4 equals lines of 3 equals lines of 7 adds 2 line communication in high position of 9 in track location. Energy wash comes in, set line calculation setting, 9 line centers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Energy washing communications, right? So we all understand what the tracker is doing now through its own transistors. Now, in that position location, this is where it comes into the activation line screens. Direct lines of panels and 2-point system of 0 operation. Okay? So we got 48 channels in set locations into high set location to its operation surface and direct signal to all calculation modifications of 53 channels of operation surface. So that's position 5 lines and 3 set location of Fibonacci and set location of travel recognition. That's all it is. That's how you change the numbers in position of travel communication, right? So you work with the seconds, you work with the minutes, and the 53 is the hours. So the reason why it's split in between is because you're working with 12 of 5 and 3 of 5 in set location. 12 of 5 and 3 with 12 set locations, right? 12 and 12. Is a 24 clocking system, all calculated modified. Okay, through kaleidoscope communication of center of operation. Okay, so now you understand what it is to clocking lines. You have to really understand how to get in the mechanism high position. So you get a positive communication and negative. Okay, so let's begin at 24 into 24. Okay, positive, negative location system. Working with the track lines of 49, set line calculations of point, set position like 54. And set position of travel communications, right? So in that line calculation, 24 equals 24. 24 is already in set location to its positive and negative in set location of travel settings. It's already in mechanism, right? It's already in its communication of center of its operation service location. Okay. So what that means, the port of communication, high center interference of 3 and 3 is already opened up through set location. That just leaves 3 in traction in a triangulation reset position of program setting. That's it. It's all done. So when you go to a triangulation of 3, you come into 4. See? Then you come into 1, 2, 3, 4 point locations, all calculation of clockings. Now, that's 4 over 3 lines of 7. Now, but you guys are working in set positions into 844 track locations of 24 line settings. So that's 24 clockings, 24 lines of south, east, west, and north in set location line system. 144 lines of north, 144 lines of east, west, and south in track location system and travel in position to its operation surface. Okay? So the mechanism high position of travel lines gets more complicated to all levels of structure settings. It's all levels and calculate high interference, how you use your sun and your moon through track location. Mechanism high calculation setting is really to understand how to use it in all position locations of 24 and 48 into 72 and 144 in platform communication. Okay? Platform and communication. Okay? Platform and communication, platform communication, platform communication, platform communication. Okay? Structure line divisions and location centers through pi. Okay? Very complicated stuff. Getting in that track line connecting high center, this is your pyramid and set position travel. So it's very powerful. Try to understand what's going on, eh, Lauren? Jim Rocks? I just want you guys to understand your settings now, because it's kind of like the telepathy is way off the charts now, and your provision cycles, line calculations, directing and redirecting setting locations to your arrows of indication how it goes one way, goes the other way. But your clocking system is always in position of 52 equals lines of calculation setting and track location to its system position to its operation and travel communication setting and high position location of 25 in communication. Right? Is that a coincidence? 52, 25. You take that back to this location, that's 52. It's that location. Is that coincidence? You take that location system of 25. Is that a coincidence? No. Everything locks the signal line in position its operation and 24 line position, all levels. In communication of past, present, and its fusion line communication, all time lines, all at once, and all set location of future of the now. And set location. Okay? So now you understand the importance, especially when you come into all traffic communication to a setting. Okay? So it doesn't matter you're working with all set location. If it's 5311, it's still 2 operations. You're still working with. See, this is what it is, guys. It's just truly understanding, like, in the high interference when it comes in all set location travel lines to 22. Okay? Well, obviously, no, that's Pluto, right? So that's 2 track line connections, all of equal communication setting interactions, right? Merkaba up, Merkaba down, right? Center position to its operation. That's all it is. That's all it is. Into its tetrarect, tetrahedron, and modification, right? So once you understand how to use that, the 22 basically is already in its seconds, minutes, and its hours of travel. So it's already traveled out in a 3 set location. In a 4 track line connections, all levels of provision. Okay? Sets position of past, present, and its future in 1 cycle and high clocking in 1 calculation setting. Okay? So that's all it is for your clock locations, right? So you're working with 2 operations, okay? Splitting position lines of 12 in position of 12, okay? So you're always in line connections. 12 and 12 is 24 in position of balance, okay? So if it's 52, okay, or if it's 48, it doesn't matter, right? 52 equals 12, 48 equals 12, because it automatically is a 24 lines of seconds, minutes, and hours per frame. Complicated stuff, right? All right, so now we're at 16 and 18 setting. Set location system. 16 on an 8 setting. Now we're at 15 on an 8 setting. See? You see what it's doing? It's going up and down, right? So I already know the clock in order of what it's going to go through until it gets to 24 set locations. Everything has to come to 24, guys. Okay, that's what you have to understand. The actual clocking of its system has its own mechanism of its memory. It knows what it's doing. You don't ask a clock what it's doing. It does it on its own. It knows what it's doing because it's all timelines all at once. Okay, so when you're in position location, is understand how to use the seconds and the minutes and the hours. The hours is set locations and position locations, right? Seconds is 5. Minutes is 5. In position of 35 and 40. So that's 5 seconds over pi, right? So in set locations, in line communication is 46. That's 2 operations at 12 and 12. Okay, equals 24. Okay, so now you understand the seconds, minutes, and the clocking system is the 2 operation system to its locations. How to use it through provision is to understand how to use your tracker settings and all levels of operation. Okay, we are done. How's everybody feel? So, okay, so this gives you a little bit more understanding how to use your thoughts now, how to go through the seconds, minutes, and hours, right? Because your track communication lines, the regeneration screen location centers, so all levels of modification of your system is now into rejuvenation. Now, the rejuvenation line interference is into recalibration line interference, travel communication of cerebros. Your cerebral cortex lines calculating high position of travel communication system. The travel communication line settings, all line rotation surface, is line connect and high interference. So let's say it's 56. It's going to go into 56. Sets position of 46. It's going to go line communications into 55. Okay. So we all understand how this all works. Okay. So that went into line communication of 51 and line calculation setting to 55 in position of 56 in set locations, right? So it skips lines calculation of 51 to 56 in line communication high center interference. In position line conditions, all levels of 57 is set location. All right, so really get balanced with the flux capacitor communication streamlines and direct signal to your operation certification system. How to use your tracker systems in time sequence of the now set location at 3 set line condition setting in left and right in position location of panels of operation surface and triangulation high position location to a system and travel. Okay, mechanism high calculation left and position of right in your clocking system, all levels of time capacitor and set location. Okay. So that's it. We're done. Any questions? Let me know. Just giving you guys all lines. Very powerful stuff when you come into all calculations and formulas of equation. Really understand how this all works now. Now you understand the importance when it comes into your thoughts and how fast they're going, right? So you know they're going in the line communication. So if you go to low division lines, you're not in the millions. Okay, so you're subtracting line setting. So that's a negative line screen, setting position locations and all settings. So you're not working with 8 million, you're in position location of 8,000. Okay, that's 3 frames, okay, in set location line system, and track locations in line communication of 4.4 and track line connections. All right. So if you go in a low frequency line set locations, you're in position location of 800. Okay. So you've got to stay above the 10 in set location of 0, operation. Okay. Below the hard deck, you can't go below 10. Right. Hemdon knows this. Okay. That's all it is. You can't go below 10. Okay. 8 goes into 7. No, very low. Right. 7 goes into 6. Very, very, very low. Right. It changes your clocking system and changes you back into your 12 cycles in set location setting. So you start living the communication of the past into its future of set location, which you don't want to do. Stay above the 10. Okay. All right. So now we understand how this all works in set location. All right. See you in 5. Adios.